Good afternoon, everyone. I, Maqsood, on behalf of NEN and Wadhwani Foundation, would like to welcome you all for this webinar and introduce our expert, Dr. Radhika Meenakshi Shankar. Dr. Radhika Meenakshi Shankar is the founder of Voice Owl Consulting Services, Hyderabad. Radhika Meenakshi Shankar actively promotes entrepreneurship and incubation in the industry and academia. In addition to mentoring startups, she also provides consultancy to MSME through her venture, Voice Owl Consulting Services. She has over 20 years of experience in teaching, finance, and entrepreneurship, and is a registered mentor with many reputed institutions. Before I hand over the floor to Radhika, here are the few reminders. All audience will be on mute. You may ask questions in the panel provided. If you want to speak to the speaker directly, you can click on raise hand button. You will be provided audio access towards the end of the session. Please ensure to share your feedback. Over to you, Radhika.
Hi and good afternoon, and I'm Radhika here, and I'm going to speak to you a little bit on the essentials of mentoring and my experience, and little more on what exactly is mentoring all about. So the agenda for today will cover what is mentoring. It's very basics. Who is a mentor? Why mentor? When and how to mentor? What are the skills and quality required? What are the challenges of mentoring, and what are the structured mentoring programs that are available for us? So basically, there are different kinds of mentoring, but mentoring is basically defined mostly as a professional relationship in which an experienced person assists another in developing specific skills and knowledge that will enhance the less experienced person's professional and personal growth. In short, the experience of one person being teaching to a person who's less experienced, never mind the age, is what is the imparting of the knowledge that one gains through one's experience, the sharing of the experience, so that you learn from the other person's experience. Now, this is all is mentoring. Now, somewhere down the line, it could be a professional relationship, but it always lands up to becoming a little more personal, a friend and other sorts. I'll come to that a little while from now, but basically, let us understand that mentoring is a relationship wherein there is an exchange of experience. Now, who can be a mentor? Basically, the mentor functions are to teach the mentee about a specific issue or coach them on a particular skill, facilitate their growth by sharing your resources and network. Basically, here, when you look at who is a mentor, it is they not only provide advice, they not only help them, not only link them, and also they help them to give a good perspective on their problems, give an impartial view. So these are all things that the mentor can help with, and basically give anything that can go to the development of the mentee. But there are different kinds of mentors, right? There is mentors for your business. Basically, if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking at starting your own business, then there are people who mentor you on how to run your business, how to start your business. If there are any problems in between in your business, how do you then go ahead and meet these challenges? But there are also personal mentors. Now, these are in some of the academic institutes, like for example, when I was working in Amity, we had these life mentors where students are given faculties as mentors for meeting all their personal as well as their academical knowledge, whatever they require. Some mentor, a friend away from, experienced friend. Work mentor, on the other hand, is when you're professionally employed in a big company or anything, there are always your seniors who then guide you through the things that are happening in the office. So these are work mentors who give you advice. Now, between the three business mentors, personal mentor and work mentor, I'm going to concentrate a little bit more on business mentoring because that's where we are in the entrepreneurship arena. The business mentors are mentors who help in the development of business. That is going to be the area we're going to concentrate on. But you know, this line between who is a business mentor, who is a life mentor, and who's a work mentor is a very porous one. Invariably, when in many of my experiences, whenever I start mentoring a a startup person, invariably we'll end up also getting to know their personal life, because invariably both these are very porous. So you tend to become more a friend also with your mentee. So that's why I would draw a line that 80% it becomes a business mentor, and 20% it lands up becoming more a personal mentor. But there are different words they use for mentoring, like, you know, you are a teacher, then basically you are guiding them and you are educating them. But each of these have got a specific function. Huh? If you look at experts, then they are expert in one particular area and they'll clarify you in that particular area. If you look at consultants, then we generally solve any problem that's going to happen, or specifically when you are having some problem, you consult them and then they get. Whereas advisors on the board of advisors suggest and show you the way. Coaches are definitely skill building. They definitely build some skills in you. And the mentors will guide you. They become a beacon light. But if you look at all these terms that we're talking, most of the time, you know, we use each of them intermittently. And the mentors is a little bit of a teacher, a little bit of an expert, a little bit of a consultant, advisor, coach. So all this. So I would put a mentor as a person who, you know, is totally a masala of all these, let's say, mix of all these things. But if you look at a business mentor, who can be a startup mentor, business startup mentors? One of the most important things that we have to say at an outset, anybody can be a mentor, you know. But preferably, it could be a business person, a person who's already at work, or a professional with a lot of years of experience, or even a faculty who's very knowledgeable. Now, anybody can become a mentor, right? But there are certain basic things that you should have in you. For example, there should be a very strong understanding of fundamental concepts of entrepreneurship. One of the things is you should have a fundamental, there's always been a clash as whether you should be an entrepreneur to become a mentor, which means you run your own business, then you have a better understanding of business. And then they feel if you're a faculty, then to becoming a mentor, you have no idea what a business is because you have not run a business yourself. You can teach about business, and therefore could you be a good mentor? So these are some of the allegations. We'll come to that when we come to the challenges of mentor. I'll talk a little bit more of it. But basically, its underlying rule to be a mentor is that you should have some basic fundamental concept of what a business is and what it entails. You should also be exposed to the practical aspects of running a business, either through your research or through conducting your business yourself, okay? And you should also read a lot on what are the trends that are happening. So these are the things, if you are a person who's abreast of the latest technology, latest things happening, these are the things that you need to keep. You need to be very open-minded because unless you're open-minded, you will not be able to accept the views of your mentee. So one of the things is you have to be very open-minded, because we cannot be, narrow and say this is the way, that is the right way, and this is the only way. You need to be very broad-minded and very open-minded, because your mentee may come up with some crazy innovative solutions, which to you may not, you may be a little conservative in your approach. So basically keep an open mind and take in what the mentee is saying. One of the most biggest qualification that you need to have as an entrepreneur is, as a mentor, is that you should be a good listener. Not only listen to what the mentee is saying, but also to, look at the body language. There's a lot of things that go through the non-verbal communications. Those are the things that as a mentor you should be very, very careful about. The underlying tone, the way the mentee puts it across, because it takes some time to develop a rapport with your mentee, and only after you develop a good rapport will you be able to understand it much better. But in the beginning, it's very important that all forms of communications. So for a mentor, one of the biggest thing is you should be a very good communicator. For that, you need to be a very good listener, and you have to be empathetic and not sympathetic. You should be also be trained to ask them pointed questions, very critical questions, which are very, very to the point, and help them to diagnose their problems. So you should be equipped as a mentor with some diagnostic tools, and also be trained to ask them questions, right? Most of the time, if you are not prepared to be a mentor, it's gen casual. Some of them are naturally good mentors because they are able to advise and talk and ask questions. But a lot of research has proved that if you are trained very well, there is a specific structured training that if you undertake, your mentoring engagements would be much more productive and much more experienced. This is I'll be talking about this research report that has come by Melinda Gates and Bill Gates Foundation, and they've come up with this report on mentoring, which is really and clearly specified how structured mentoring is really much more productive. One other thing is you should be willing to share, you know. This is very difficult because some of the mentors feel, should I share what I have, my network, it's mine and that's my asset. And if your mentee at some point of time feels that you're not sharing, you will see that there would be a break in your relationship. So all in all, anybody can be a mentor because you can be structurally trained to become a mentor. But you need to have some basic qualities like a good knowledge of business, an open-minded approach, etc. If you become a mentor, what is in it for you, right? One of the greatest benefits of mentoring is that you gain a lot of insights about your mentee. When you learn about your mentee's business and the way they have approached, etc., you can also, sort of reflect on your own professional and personal development because it adds to your experience. So when you go through what your mentee is going through, the problems or the challenges, that you're also working side by side and you're also gathering your knowledge. So that what happens is becomes a huge tank wherein your reservoir is just getting built. One other thing is a lot of people would, every one of us as humans love to share our experience, and love to give advice because that's the most easiest thing to do. Well, here is an opportunity as a mentor where everybody who listens to your words very, very attentively because you are sharing your experience and you are trying to tell them that learn from my experience. So you get a very mental satisfaction of having helped someone. Psychologically, it gives you a big boost. Also, it can add to your career, right? Mentoring can become another area because you can earn from mentoring, and you can also, your experience will also enhance your earnings in your other businesses. So all in all, it will re-energize you. And you, as I already told you, that we have already looking at networking as one of the prime things in mentoring, and therefore when you mentor, you develop your network also because you're linking your mentee to a lot of people in your network. So the other people in the network feel appreciated. Hey, you thought of me, and therefore, you were able to, when you're talking to your mentee, and they feel, oh yes, so I'm somebody, and gives them a feeling of self-worth. So therefore, they are also thinking next time they will recommend you. So a lot of this appreciation happens, and some of the benefits that you can get as a mentor. But specifically, if you're a faculty, then the mentoring engagement gives you a lot more, I feel. I started my mentoring engagement when I was a faculty, and therefore I found that my teaching was amazingly changed because I could give a whole lot of practical examples while teaching. There's a thing about practical examples is when you quote practical examples from the news or from your books or anywhere you read. But there's also another by giving practical examples of what actually you did and how you felt it. And definitely the students' take on it was much better. And also when I talk to a couple of my mentees now about my various other experiences with other mentees, that also really, really helps because they feel, okay, so there are others also in the same boat as me, and therefore they feel good. and say, Acha, can you give me a link to them? I'll say, yeah, you talk to them, similar, you are different industries, but definitely there are some similar challenges that you both have. So they get a peer network also, which you can connect between your two mentees. And I think that worked a lot for me. And of course, writings, your academic articles, everything also gets very much enhanced with your experience. So being a mentor is actually all in all a win-win situation, whether you are a business person, an entrepreneur trying to become a mentor, or whether you are a faculty wanting to become a mentor. All in all, it's a very rich and satisfying experience, and I can tell you, because this is first hand, being a mentor in all these years, about now 6-7 years since I'm a mentor, every day, every time I get a new mentee, it's like getting a new avatar for myself, because I'm learning about a whole lot of new industries. And right from my first mentee, who was actually into computer and laying down of cables and that industry, to the current one who's building up a network of tutorials and academic network, internal networks, to people manufacturing glass ovens, to ladies selling saris, to beauty parlors. I have a whole length and breadth, and I believe so that this experience of mine is only solely because of the various mentees I've had along in all these years. And it's been a benefit, no doubt, both in my increase in knowledge as well as in my exposure and my network also. So I think using me as an example is the best way for which I can tell you why it is so good to be a mentor, right? But for the mentees, what could be the various benefits, right? One is the mentee gains a lot without having to experience it the hard way, right? So there is no loss of money, there is no loss of, a market or anything, because you have a person who's guiding you and telling you with their expertise, hey, be careful when you do this, right? And you also get a critical feedback when they come and ask you. For example, Bhupen, one of my mentees, came and asked me, what do I do about my working capital thing with the bank? And we then started doing a research on various banks and what are the various offerings on the working capital things, the loans that we were giving. And then we were able to come to a conclusion that whether changing the bank was a better idea and how not. So that really helped, because such important things, you need to have a strong discussion and you're able to have a strong analysis of what's happening. And so you get a sounding board. The mentee gets a sounding board who can say, shall I do this? Shall I not do this? Do you think it's okay if I do this? Remember, as mentors, we're not giving them decisions, but we are sort of telling, this is the good points, these are the bad points. Now let's see which is better. And when it's a shared decision, knowledge that is shared, definitely, I think you're, as a mentee, as an entrepreneur, you are now in a better position because it's just not a single view, you also have an expert view. So receiving critical feedback on important areas plays a very important role for them. And it also, the mentor also tells you how to handle difficult situations or a particular challenge. But one of the most important things is, as a mentor, you are there to tell your mentee, be focused on this, because we are giving them a very structured way. I say, if I give you 2 weeks, maybe this should be done, or you're giving a time frame and laying out an execution timetable. And so the mentee is much more focused. So one of the biggest benefits a mentee gets is, here's someone always helping you to be more focused and not wander away. I do have a whole lot of mentees to whom I say, okay, I won this in 2 weeks, see if you can get it in 2 weeks. I'm not saying it's a hard and fast rule, but definitely a 2 weeks, because these are the ramifications if we go overboard. So when you communicate this to them, mentees are usually very serious people and they really take it up, because here it's not your college assignment where you can postpone it, but more because this is your own business and they're very worried, and therefore they normally meet, and most of the time I see they meet their milestones, and they're very clear on their feedback also. So it helps them to get, you help them to get more focused. And Also, you can pinpoint your mentee and say, okay, you need skills here, you need a partner here, you need this here, those sort of things. And you give them a lot of links, right? It can work much better way. Like I had a particular, I had a mentee who's building a platform, and we were very clear that to build this platform, we were building a micro platform for micro entrepreneurs in one of the less to do economic areas. And since we're building a platform for micro entrepreneurs, we were very clear that we need to have a whole lot of information on that. Once we got that information, we did a huge survey, got the information, we had a lot of convincing the people to get on the platform, to become members of the platform, so that there could be a lot of interactions. Now, for all this, my mentee was a young who had just finished her graduation, had to actually learn the skills of computer and building a platform a little bit. And so then, you know, along the way, I told her, this is what you need to do. So when we were looking at what are the things that we need, automatically she picked up a lot of skills and knowledge and a lot of readings, you know, not a formal language where you get a certificate and all that knowledge, but, you know, the fact that she was given something to read and, you know, go here, visit this and get to know a lot more about this. Her learning curve just improved on the platform, and she was able to build a much more robust platform for micro entrepreneurs. Or if you take another mentee of mine who has built a platform for entrepreneurs in a big way. Well, I linked him to a couple of maybe to the people who are in entrepreneurial area, and said looking at mentors or looking at a band of mentors to get on into his e-platform and the entrepreneurial platform. Well, it worked well because we had to put him and introduce him to various institutes which were dealing in this, facilitating institutes. For example, for his website, I needed him to be linked to a pay channel. So we need to look at various pay channels, etc. So he didn't know anything about finance. He's a hardcore techie, and here he was trying and meeting people to raise money. So linking them, networking them. So the mentee was very much using. I was training the mentee on how to meet your investor, how to talk to them, what to present, looking at the pitch. I had my mentee coming all the way from Delhi here to submit one of the tenders here to the airport authority, and even after 5 years, he had the thing to come and say, ma'am, can you just look at my pitch? This is a second pitch for this contract, and I would like you to see it. After 5 years, our mentoring engagement got over, and yet, what I'm trying to say is there a closure for mentoring? Well, I really don't know. It's still again porous. Formal engagements of mentoring gets closed, but the mentee still always has high regards for the mentor. I think he always feels, yeah, there's a mentor who's always there to whom I can go and ask. I think that's one of the biggest benefit a mentee derives, is the fact that there is somebody supporting you there in that world. An entrepreneurial world is actually a pretty lonely one because the struggles are there. But when you get the bouquets, there are a lot of people to share. But when you get the brickbats, that's when the entrepreneur has to face it all alone. And that's when the mentor comes really, really useful, because he knows that there is a sympathetic ear and an empathetic ear who will tell him, okay, man, let's get up, let's work it. I'm so sure this decision of yours, though well thought of, did not work well. Let us look at it, plan B, plan C. So that is one of the biggest benefits a mentee can actually get. A friendly ear and a safe haven where your secrets are very, very safe. So that's something that the mentee always cherishes. This is the report that I was talking to you about. This is the report released on the study of mentoring on youth by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. One of the most important things that the report, I just picked some relevant significant findings, is that the mentoring relationship is far more meaningful, far more useful, and far more long-lasting when the mentor is very well trained. So that means mentoring, of course, I should tell you that mentoring can happen in two ways, right? One, it can happen in a structured way, and one, it can be in structured. There are certain set patterns through which mentoring follows, and this structuring happens with training. Whereas in the unstructured, which normally, now all these years what's been happening is unstructured mentoring, right? Where you just go meet your peer and say, oh, how did you do this? A lot of peer learning. I remember way back in in the late 90s and think on the research of what does an entrepreneur do when he is in trouble. Whom does he look for? Does he go to professional consultants? The answer was no, a big fat no. In all of the 117 units entrepreneurs whom I interviewed, more than 100, nearly 100 of them said no, absolutely not. They go to their friends or fellow entrepreneurs to go and ask them for some help. So if you're looking at so much of peer learning happening, then obviously the time has slowly come where no longer peer learning is there, but you also require a lot of structured thing where you can be a peer for your entrepreneur, that is for your mentee, and yet you'll be able to give much more, and the mentee could learn much more if there is a structured form to it. So nowadays, a lot of structured mentoring is gaining ground across the world, and there's a lot of research going on and a lot of models which have come out on mentoring, and therefore productive. And this report is just one other side to example of it. Another thing that is becoming very popular and is trending in mentoring is more than face-to-face meeting. It's more of a non-face-to-face, like more through Skype or through phone. I think virtual mentoring is also gaining big grounds here. Getting on WhatsApp with your mentor is something now very much. And since most of my mentees are very young, I'm on WhatsApp, and I'm forced to go more on Skype, and they're much more available because later in the later part of the evening, that's when most of the youngsters are free, and it becomes much easier for us to go through our mentoring session through virtual ways than commuting, traffic, etc. So more of virtual mentoring is becoming more and more popular. So we, as mentors, that's another qualification. You should be prepared to go on virtual mentoring and be able to, you should be quite efficient with your WhatsApp and Skype and all those things. The report also suggests that at least 2 times, 2 meetings should be scheduled per month on an average, of which each meeting should be of 2 hours. So I think about the 4 to 5 hours gainful time spent with your mentee in a month would make it on an average very, very productive. There's one more thing that the report suggested is that there should be a lot of pre-mentoring training and follow-up by agencies. And this is one of the ingredients for the success of a mentoring engagement, is a pre-mentoring training, which talks about training being very important prior to you start mentoring, which is again what I come back to, structured mentoring vis-a-vis unstructured mentoring. So also one of the most important things is that before you take on a mentoring engagement, I think there should be 1 or 2 meetings in which you should check whether you have a personal rapport which you can build on. Because this plays a very important role. Personal rapport between the mentor and mentee is something which is chemistry which we need to look. And also this report suggests that nearly 18 months of active engagement is actually very productive. That's about 1 to 1.5 years. Well, this can be extended, but mostly it's about a year or so. I find that it really helps. And then later on the meetings twice a month get staggered to once a month, and then once in 2-3 months, and then it peters off. But active engagement for about 8 to 12 months is a must. So we're talking to you a lot about structured mentoring. So what is structured mentoring? How is it different from an unstructured mentoring, right? So we talked about unstructured mentoring where it's loosely held and you just meet across for a coffee or a beer and you just go talk and say, okay, I have this problem, let's talk about it, and what do you do, and how to do, and why don't you do this? Suggested, when you, basically whenever you run into a problem, you call up your best friend and you say, okay, do this and do that. When you run into a professional problem, you talk to some seniors who have already experienced it and you ask them what to do. So these are all unstructured mentoring things. When you talk about structured, the one basic thing that we need to understand is that there is a clear formality to this entire engagement. So what happens is, the first important thing is, you meet your mentee and then you check whether you have a personal rapport, right? You need to assess what is the mentee's needs and what can the mentor offer. So there should be a match between the mentee's needs and the mentor offering. Now invariably, individually, when you get your own mentee, it more comes with a personal rapport. But when it comes through a formalized agencies, then the agencies are the people who see whether, this fit happens. So when, see, for example, I'm a mentor with an NEN, I'm a mentor with BYST. In all these places, I get my mentee after a pre-match by the respective institutes. So when you're looking at these, the pre-matching is basically done in a very formal way, where what the mentor is and what the mentee is, these people realize what are the needs and see if they can match. If, for example, there is a mentee who requires a whole lot of finance and who's looking at financial remodeling of their business, or their main challenge is business strategy and how to model, and they have an idea. So there are, is the mentor a person who can handle these things? Or is the mentor is a person who is more at, who's a technical expert? So now you're looking at a person who can jolly well give you a little bit of business modeling, but who can also help you technologically. So these are some of the matches that are done. So this is the most important thing, aspect of mentoring, is the initial match between what the mentor offers and what the mentee needs. And another important thing is the personal rapport that has to come in the moment you mentor and mentee meet. If they have the personal rapport and then agree on, okay, I am ready to mentor you, or I'm not, I don't think I'm the right person to mentor you. It happens in the personal rapport meeting. And then you decide and lay down terms exactly as to where all are the areas that you can help your mentee. I think at the beginning, when you make clear to the mentee that, okay, I'll get on in this mentoring engagement with you, but let's be very clear. These are the areas I can help you. These are the areas I can link you to. These are the areas I cannot help you with. For example, for one of my mentees who I told you is building a platform, I'm very clear, I'm absolutely a dud in technology. Give me a break, I just don't know all these things. But what I can help you is structure the business, because that's my area of expertise. So he said, ma'am, no problem, technical, I'll look at, taking in a technical advice from some senior, but you help me with the business part, because I'm a techie guy at heart and I don't know anything about it. But so very clearly, so when he never makes a point to ask me any doubts on technical aspects, because I'm absolutely, but I could link him to technical experts. So I said, okay, you want such a person, let me link you to this friend of mine who's good in this technology, or who's done a similar business of the sort, who's in the e-commerce side, or who's in the platform. So when I link that, and then he talks to them and he says, yes ma'am, this is very good, and so one of the things is mutually agreeing on what are the areas you're going to mentor, and what are the areas you're going to link, and what are the areas you're not going to help. Once you're very clear at the outset about this, then the mentoring engagement becomes very fruitful, because both of us know, both the mentor and the mentee know, what are the areas you can't trespass, what are the areas you need to look at other places. Also, it's very important that when you start your mentoring engagement, it's very important to lay down a timetable of sorts. This invariably leads to a whole lot of confusion, because you need to be very clear when are you going to meet your mentee, right? So you need to fix, this is something besides, you need to put this in your calendar, and so does the mentee put it in the calendar of his or her, that when, let's say every second Saturday and fourth Saturday we are meeting, or mutually time that is between the two of us. This is very important because the mentee should respect the mentor's timing, and the mentor should also look at the mentee's engagement he or she will have. So a mutually agreed upon timing is very, very important. Invariably, if you cannot keep up to a meeting, it's better that you inform earlier to the mentee, as well as the mentee should inform the mentor and say, please, I cannot come, or I'm held up for this reason. So that's very, very important. Laying down the milestones, laying down a timetable. Okay, the first 2 months we'll concentrate on this. Make a plan. Whether you follow to the plan is another matter, but at least make a plan right at the beginning so that you sort of formalize the structure and say, okay, this. So once you put a timetable, set up a milestone, set up time frames, and set up the boundaries of engagement, that is, what all you can do. Basically, set right the objectives of your mentoring engagement. Sort of, it will tell you the goal. Once you set a goal, then you know the plan, you lay down a plan how to reach that goal, then the mentoring engagement becomes very, very structured. Now, for all this, as a regular mentor, we may not know how to structure it. So it's good if you are trained to be a mentor, automatically you have, you know the format, and you know how to move on, and you know what are the steps to take. That is why training before you become a mentor plays a very important role. You can be a mentor without training, but your effective mentoring happens if you know in a structured way what to do and what not to do. Now this structured mentoring helped me in a way, because the first thing I do when I meet my mentee is, after we discuss to take on the mentoring engagement, is to lay down a plan when all we are going to meet, what are we going to do, what are the timelines, and okay, then first 2 weeks this is what I do, and these are the people whom I can link you up to. But I will link you up to this if this is completed. So sort of you give them a reward by saying, okay, you complete this, then you can meet this. So it sort of works like, much better, and you also feel happy that, the mentee is going as per the plan. Sometimes you need to change your plan. You cannot be too rigid on the plan also. But keeping it a little structured helps you to have more focus. That is what I found. So getting the right fit, assessing the mentor, I've talked to you all about this. So a little bit of the personal background of the mentee is what you have to delve into. That is why at the beginning I told you, it's very porous, because from a professional business mentor, you also tend to become a life coach. Because I have a lot of my mentees who have asked me a lot of personal, talk about their personal problems and say, okay, my parents are not allowing me to do this, and how do I meet this challenge? I still remember I had a young college mentee whose father wanted him to take a job, but he wanted to do entrepreneurship, and he was saying, I'm going to start this without my father's knowledge. And that's when I told him, Ali, it's better you inform your father, tell him that you will take up the job, but tell him to give him some time, and then, those sort of, and then he talked to his father. So where is the personal there and what is the professional mentoring? There is two different things, right? That's why I said it is very porous. So in order to start that, you have to get a little bit personal also. So be prepared to be a little personal. And one of the things is, assessing your commitment of your mentee is very important. Sometimes the mentees just do not come back to you. And, is it right on our part to go chasing the mentee? I think not. So the mentee and mentor relationship is more, it's friendly, but yet there is the guru-shishya type, a little on that. So therefore, it's very vital that the mentee should request the mentor, and if they feel that they have taken enough from the mentor, then the closure should also be a little formalized. So the mentoring, closure of the mentoring engagement is another very porous area. As I told you, if there is a good mentoring engagement, there is no closure, it just is a staggered meeting. You're meeting after 2 years or 3 years, but when the mentoring is a short assignment and sometimes very formal ones, then it closes after the engagement, especially when it's conducted through an agency, then the mentoring closes. But nevertheless, it spills over to a couple of things. One of the most important things for effective mentoring is ultimate documentation. You know, this is one of the boringest part of mentoring is documenting it. But documenting helps because when you read the document, you know, my God, have I done so much? And the mentee also feels, okay, this is what it's done. And therefore, you're sort of saying, okay, when you document it, you will remember, okay, in that meeting we discussed this and this is what has been said and this is what we have decided. So one of the things is keeping a log and, you know, keeping documents of your meeting. Both the mentor and the mentee should keep a log. Maybe have a common Google document and keep sharing it between the two, because this really helps in reviewing progress and say what can be done, what have we done. But one of the most important things is never ever divulge your mentee's problems to anybody. And you should be the safe haven to whom the mentee turns to. So one of the things in mentoring engagement is privacy and not being judgmental about your mentee. So you start off by identifying the core issue. That is something which you need to tackle, and you say, okay, this is priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, and sort of then the mentee who comes to you as a troubled soul is so happy that his problems have been sorted and slotted into boxes and says, okay, now we can handle it. You know, he gets a renewed mental strength, and you say these are the things to overcome and identify. For example, one of my mentees who came to me did not absolutely have any revenue model, and for 4 years he had built his platform without a revenue model, and he had put in all his life savings, everything into this, and we were wondering. Now I said the first core issue is, you know, lack of money is because you don't have a revenue model. You've got a fantastic product, you have not generated one pie of money. I said first is to test it. Let's look at the revenue model. Don't go on a social model because this will not work much on a social model. So we were looking, I said, let's try this, you know, because he was running short of money. And before introducing him to the investors, he had come to me basically for that. I said, let's look at, you know, putting in a revenue model. And believe me, the moment he put a revenue model, he found that there were a lot of takers who were willing to pay that money for that information that he was giving through his website. And that was such a big heartening thing for him. And he was telling me, God, now this is, you know, now there is no looking. And then with renewed strength, he could go in for raising more money. And so therefore, the ability of the mentor to identify the core issue forms the crux of the mentoring engagement. Then setting up milestones, which I already talked to you. But it's not enough to just set milestones, right? You need to put it as a metric. Okay, increase this by 20% or 30%. Giving a number and, you know, metrics is something measurable, quantifiable. That is the success of a mentoring engagement. The ability to give a quantifiable thing which can be measured at the end. Otherwise, you know, it's just, oh, I gave him a couple of ideas and okay, he did it and he succeeded. But the fact that you're able to share, okay, in 6 months' time, let's see if I can move your sales revenue by 10%. By doing this, let us hope that we increase it by, 5%. Let's try it. If it increases by 5%, then we know we are on the right track. So, you know, small exercises to, you know, the proof of pudding is in eating, they say. So you given a proof, and once you measure it and you achieve the target, it gives you a big boost. Then you set yourself another bigger target. So metrics is very, very important. How do you set the metrics between you and your mentee is again in a structured form. So that requires you to gauge what are the needs and then do it. Visibility of success, very, very important. The things that you do to your mentee and what the mentee does as per your guidance should be visible to both of you. The benefits should be. So time and again, after some time, you look at, okay, we did this, so what is the impact? You know, between you and your mentee, you should continuously discuss and say, what has been the impact? Is it going the right way? Is it going the right way? And if you get publicity about what you've been doing, I think that's another bigger boost for you. And try and make your analysis, very, very objective rather than subjective. Some of the times as a mentor, your personal issues may cloud your judgment. So that is something that the mentor should be really, really careful of, and try and be, not be very opinionated. Just give, it's for them to decide, for the mentee to decide. So therefore, you should be, you say, okay, this is the plus, these are the minuses, this is my opinion, but then it's yours. You have to take the decision. So be very clear. If you're giving your opinion, then make sure that you say, okay, I think this would, this is what I would do in this situation. I think I would do in this situation. I really don't know, but be a little more, allow the decision making to the mentee. All you do is you facilitate the decision making. So give the plus and give the minus. And always talk about the future a little bit and say, okay, these are the things and these are the ramifications. One of the biggest qualities of the mentor is the ability to see the bigger picture than the mentee's mindset, right? The mentee at present is clouded by the current challenges and the current problems and his dream to achieve what he or she wants to achieve. But as a mentor, the ability for you to be impartial and see the bigger picture and communicate the bigger picture to the mentee forms the core issue of effective mentoring. And in my opinion and in my experience, what works is asking a whole lot of questions, right? And getting clarifications. So in the beginning, you just keep asking them questions. Asking them questions, though you may have very evident answers in your mind, but it's always better to get the mentee to answer the question, because he or she starts pondering on the questions that you ask. So this is where I feel faculties make very good mentors, because they're so used to questioning, right? As I told you, keeping notes, because it really helps, because sometimes there can be a conflict, and at that time we can always refer our notes and say, okay, this is what was discussed and this is what we said. And one of the things important is seeking commitment from your mentee and saying that, can you do this? Is it possible for you to do this? And if the mentee says yes, then say what is the time frame you require. So getting specific commitments, make sure and making sure you reiterate and say, okay, this is what you'll do, this is what happens, and and putting it down in writing or follow it up with an email or something and say, okay, this is what. So this really, really helps. And another important thing is mentee is very happy when you introduce them and link them to various sources of information and networks and other resources. That's something that's why they come to you for. So be very open, don't be closed about the resources you have. So when you open up and you're very open and transparent and say, okay, I'll introduce you and introduce them to your network, there's a whole win-win situation, because the network really grows, and there's also complementary and reciprocatory network builds that your friends whom you have linked them to link you to their mentees and so on, and the network really grows. So all this really works, and this is what worked very well for me. But what will not work is when the mentee comes to you, they're actually very, very confused and sometimes very bewildered, especially in the beginning, and they say, okay, should I do this idea? Do I do this? What can I do? I'm in a crossroad. Should I, outsource it, or should I do it myself? So these are some specifically they may come to you. So you say, hey, don't outsource it. Do it yourself. Don't be very emphatic like that. So don't approve or even dismiss or disapprove and say, don't ever do it. That's something which means you're giving them a thing. So you just say, Acha, if you're having this, what made you think of this? And keep them, roundabout and say, make them look at the pros and cons. As I again said, never decide. And one of the things is giving the solution and giving your answers. It's better that the mentor doesn't give them the answers. It's better you lead them to find the answers and say, okay, this is what that person did. This is what these people did for this such type of a problem. And why don't you go read that up, and and maybe you'll be able to find some analogs or antilogs, and you will be able to take a decision, and leave it at that. Never ever say, oh, this idea, when your mentee is upset and say, oh, this is my idea, I was mentor, and never, because it's all the work of your mentee, you've just been a guide. So don't get emotionally worked up also, sometimes, I told you to do this, and why didn't you do this, and you tend, because you're human, and you feel that when what you said as a mentor, you feel is gospel, and if your mentee doesn't follow it, you get very perturbed. So kindly, that's one thing which will never work, because the moment you say, why didn't you do what I told you to do, it becomes a different relationship, like a boss and a subordinate or something like that. That is not this relationship, it's more a guide. So therefore, if the mentee does not do what has been discussed, as that these are the things that can be done, it's better you tell your mentee that, okay, now we are handicapped because this particular thing has not been done. So how do we go about to handle this lacunae in the work that we have done? What more can be done? Or why this work was not done, if you find that your mentee is a better reason why this is, no, this is already there, or I thought we can take it from there. And I say, oh, that's a good idea, and then you move on and forth. So that's something that you should never ever emotionally rev up your mentee. It will never work. Always have an agenda and say, today we will discuss this, or point, and then do review of what we had decided last, and take these are the future plans, but keep an agenda. What are you planning to do in your talk? That way you will not meander into other things. So a lot of things work, and definitely there are some success mantras which have been proved the world over: having focus, identifying the problem, gaining the trust. I think that is by far one of the important ingredients. Is how do you gain trust between your mentor and mentee? One of the things is, as a mentor, you should be very, very honest and show the mirror to your mentee. I think that's very, very important. Absolutely. Don't tell him this, what the mirror is reflecting is ugly, or what the mirror is reflecting is beautiful. Tell him this is the mirror, right? And this is what it is, as prosaic as that. Believe me, easy said than done. I find it very, very difficult to be so unemotional, right? And tell your mentee, okay, this is what it is. It's not, it doesn't work that way. And say, hey, look, when one of my mentees is having a success, say, hey, you really feel happy that the first customer has walked in, or, that this particular thing worked. Or when my mentee, one of my mentees who, Bala, when she got her, the subsidy from the government on the fees, it's something that you really jump with joy. And then at that point you can say, I told you so, you got it. I cannot be that prosaic, right? But there is bound to be, you share your joys, but when you share your sorrows also, you need to share, be with them, and empathize and say, okay, I know this has gone wrong, but don't worry. You should be very motivating and say, look, this is what it is. It is not as bad as it seems. Maybe we can work this out. So that sort of a motivational urge is what you should give, and it will help the mentee, because they really require that supporting hand. And one of the most important things is the ability to tell your mentee how to use the social media very, very effectively. And I found that it worked a lot for some of these small entrepreneurs whom I've mentored. For example, I had a partner, two ladies who are into sari shops, and they do printing of saris, block printing and regenerating old saris. That's what their boutique is all about. And I had a formal engagement with them, and I found that they were not using social media. So we did take out and created a social media, and they put in all their saris and their works and their fantastic designs. They found a whole lot of things. So the ability of the mentor to actually guide them and say, they really didn't know what a social media is. In fact, both the ladies, Annapurna and all, learned how to, do a WhatsApp, learned how to, go on Facebook and create a page. So these are the things that they picked up on their own. All I did was guide them and say this will work effectively. And I showed them a couple of other entrepreneurs who are using Facebook page, and they quickly learned and they realized, and and they started doing. So this is really, and they found that their sales was going up, and they were so happy. So these are something which is workable, which was doable, which was easy, and it could be monitored and it could be quantified. So voila, I had a little bit of a success there in that mentoring engagement. So these are some of the things that you really need to look, and very importantly, I think developing your personal as well as your professional network will really give your mentee a huge database for you to dip in and give your mentee. And one of the biggest challenges that of mentoring is, as I already told you, is the fact that you tend to, as mentors, because you feel you know it, you've been there, done it, I know, I've been there, I've done it. The tendency to get an arrogant attitude is a little there, or you can say, I know it, I've done it, I know this is going to happen, being emphatic of what's going to happen. For all you know, it may not happen to your mentee, but then you're talking from your experience. So therefore, you're bound to talk and get subjective on that matter. So that's something very, very important. Remember, as mentors, we are not here to solve their problems, okay? We are here to empower them to solve their problems. That's one ground rule that as mentors we have to remember. We are not here to solve the mentees' problems. We are here to empower the mentees to solve their own problems. So one of the things is you have to be continuously motivated. You shouldn't be worried, it happened to you, so sad. On the other hand, I say, yeah, I know, sympathize, and then say, okay, that's okay, now what do we do next? How do we get over it? So you invariably find that the entrepreneurs invariably also the bouncy kind, because that's the nature, very nature of entrepreneurship is the ability to bounce back. So a little bit of more motivation from the mentor will definitely get their bounce back. And reporting, monitoring, again, as I said, if the moment we don't document, the moment we don't write it down, it becomes a huge challenge. How do you monitor? How do we review the performance? How do we know what's happening? How do we report? One is monetary reward and one is the non-monetary reward. So when you look at a monetary reward, most of the mentoring, the monetary reward, there are two types of monetary rewards. One, the mentor can take a stake in the mentee's business, a very small stake, normally in the equity they give. Or you can take a consultation fees as a lump sum, can say, okay, for so many hours of engagement, or for this many milestones, this is a figure. How do you price that? It depends on what type of things you're going to do for this. There are many things where they have some standard amount, and then you say, okay, this is what your price is. But when it comes to sharing or taking a part in as a stake in your mentee's business, you have to put in a real formal terms of agreement, because that's very, very important. And when you look at the non-monetary rewards, your name in the society, the ability of your thing to be featured along with the success of your mentee, these are some of the non-monetary recognitions, your network increase. All these are some of the non-monetary rewards that you can get, and this will definitely motivate you much better. One of the biggest challenges is when you get a wrong mentee, there's a mismatch about your mentor-mentee, then you are in for a big problem, because somewhere down the line there may be a conflict, and you wouldn't know, it can take ugly, so it's better you decide, I think I may not be of much help. I find that our engagement is moving in another area which is not my area of expertise. So, gently extract yourself out of the situation. Easier said than done, because there's already an emotional band, but getting out, because professionally you can't do much for this particular mentee, then breaking away that engagement also is very, very difficult. These are some of the challenges that we faced while you're mentoring. And here I would like to, it's as always with my favorite is like to put it down in ABCD, and more or less what all I have said, the same thing: appreciate, balance of work and life, and give all the right connections. It's very important that you do your homework as a mentor, just that you don't stop with my knowledge is enough or my experience is enough for me to mentor. There should be a continuous learning uh, for the mentor. You can't stop learning, and you need to be very, very clear on what's abreast with all the latest things that are happening. You need to be a little innovative. You have to be there. Just be there for your entrepreneur all the time. Listen. Money matters. Definitely, what is the engagement that you have with your mentee, and money matters. You have to be very clear about the money matters. Never force, and don't judge your mentees, and report, and definitely go on a timetable of your meeting, right? So I was talking to you about structured mentoring, and one of the structured mentoring that I've been through is the Goldman Sachs mentoring program that happened with NEN way back, I think in 2008 or 9, I think around that time. And what that really helped me and set me on the path as a mentor. Today, if I can confidently say that I can mentor, is the fact that I went through a rigorous 8 months. I went for the workshop. Then there was a mentoring engagement which was monitored periodically by NEN, and I still remember the reports that I had to give to. At that time, Raj Bhatt was the mentor guru, and we had to submit all our documents. But I also remember, calling up the mentor panel and asking them, I'm having this challenge. What do I do? And and giving suggestions, because this is my first mentoring engagement, and this really having this platform to help me gave me a lot of confidence to become a mentor in my later part. And if it was not for all the support that I had, I doubt if I could be a successful mentor as I want to be. And this MSFS, or the Mentoring Skills Finishing School, basically targeted faculties wanting to become mentor, but also can be taken by mentors who, by regular business people who want to mentor. Because as I told you right from the beginning, anybody can be a mentor. If you have the mindset that you want to mentor and you feel that clearly you have a lot of things to bring to the table, then to get a structured form to your knowledge and your ideas, I think the best is to undergo a formalized training to put all your things in an order. And so this workshop is being conducted by NEN. To identify, train and empower faculty to support entrepreneurs, but it's also for entrepreneurs. And when you look at this, basically this program is mobile invitation, but you can also apply, and if you're found to have the good the qualities needed, then you would be invited. There is a selection process, a very, very rigorous selection process. I still remember the interviews that I had, and though now I'm on the other side of the table a little bit, but it really helps me that I remember all the questions that were asked, and there is a whole lot of assignments to do. There's a lot of pre-workshop assignments. What do you do? How you do it? And there are a lot of things to prepare for. There's like webinars and all that. These are all the pre-workshop trainings that you have to do. Basically, you should have an idea of what it is, what you're getting into before you actually go and structure your thinking through the 2-day hands-on training program. And then, after the program, after you finish the workshop, that's when your practical execution starts. You need to pick up your mentee and then start a formalized engagement with your mentee, and track and under the supervision of NEN, you need to track and guide your progress, submit all the documents and forms, etc. And you can also, as I told you, depend on some of your mentor gurus to ask for help, because you're still, in the stages where you're trying to be a mentor, and getting some help from other seasoned mentors would also help you on how to mentor effectively. In fact, seeing a lot of role plays between mentor-mentee really helped me. I remember in my workshop that I attended for the Goldman Sachs, and in all other workshops, we have this role play between the mentor and mentee, real mentor-mentee, and how they went through. And then there's a role play happening, so you'll sort of pick up a lot of the style and way of questioning. You'll find some of the mentors are very aggressive. You'll find some of the mentors very accommodative and very subtle in the way they question. But basically, the way you question your mentee, that way you learn through a lot through these role plays. And of course, since you're already monitoring and progressing and noting down everything, the certification plays a very important role. The certificate that I got from NEN hangs very proudly in my office, and so does the certificate from BYST. So, maybe it's just, it's not a big thing to show that you can be only a mentor if you're certified, but nevertheless, it's a proud thing to say that, yes, you've been through a structured process and that you've been certified, that you've undergone a structured process. And that really helps because it also gives a bit of a confidence in the minds of your mentee. Well, having done all this, how can you apply it? Well, very much if you're a faculty turned mentor, one of the biggest exposures you'll have is in the student venture mentoring. The first thing the student comes is and asks you is, ma'am, I heard you're a mentor, can you help me out with this, and not only for your own students, but also to the community at large, the entrepreneurs nearby your educational institutions, or near your house or anywhere in your professional things where you meet them, you are more confident to mentor them. And of course, if your institution or your university starts a business incubator, then you can attach, whether it's an academic business incubator in the academic campus or an incubator, private incubator. There also you have the confidence you can be enrolled as an incubator, and you can do all of this, or you can just use it for your IEDC and innovation centers. Well, it can be applied anywhere, so it's a tremendous amount of applications that can come with a single learning and putting all your experience and knowledge all in a structured way. And you can also gain a lot of knowledge on mentoring by visiting some of these, the nenonline.tv, which has a whole lot of small videos and courses, and these are all absolutely free now. So I think these also help a lot. It gives you some 3-2 tips on how to mentor, etc. So that's for it with it for me from now, and any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you very much, Radhika, for the wonderful session. So we have got a couple of questions from the attendees. So the first question is from Satish Kumar. He says that, does peer grouping mentoring gain, personal rapport? What is your opinion?
Can you please repeat it?
Yeah. Satish Kumar says, does peer grouping mentoring help in getting personal rapport? What is your opinion?
Peer grouping and shared learning is something that needs to be done on a separate platform. Personal rapport develops more on a one-to-one basis. On a peer grouping where you have about 5-6 entrepreneurs and you're doing a mentoring, you can only give a little bit of general knowledge. Between the entrepreneurs, they have a lot of learning. So when they network, that's a learning that happens. But as a mentor, single mentor, you cannot have a personal rapport with a group. You can only give a bit of a yarn. Mentoring comes more effective when it's on a one-to-one basis. Peer learning and peer networking amongst them, that really helps. Over?
Yeah, and then the second question is from Sridhar. He says that who is responsible for scheduling the regular meetings? Is it the mentor or the mentee?
Well, this is a billion-dollar question. When the mentoring is free and it comes through another institute, between the mentor and the mentee, I always say it is the mentee who has to, fit in the timings and set the timings according to the convenience of the mentor, because the mentor is doing things for him or her or helping them. So it's very vital that the mentee should request for time and the mentor should also give the time. But when it is a paid scenario, then the question is the schedule should happen and the thing can be fixed by either the mentee or the mentor or the mutual convenience. Nevertheless, it's very important that the follow-up should be more from the mentee side rather than from the mentor side. Next.
The next question is from Jitendra. He says that if anyone has a normal career in a field, can he be a good mentor or not?
I don't understand, Jitendra, what you mean by a normal career. But if you're meaning that, just a general, no hi-fi gains in your career, you're just having a regular career, yes, you can. Having mentor, becoming a mentor has got nothing to do that only if you're successful or a big failure is when you can be a mentor, right? An average person can also become a mentor because it's the way you have the insights. And of course, if you're trained to be a mentor, then your productivity will all the more increase, right? And your confidence will also increase. Basically, if you're having a fantastic, successful career, it only gives you confidence, right? And if you're having an average career, the only thing you'll be is lack of confidence, which can be easily corrected if you undergo a very good training. Okay?
Okay. And the next question is from Sumita. She is asking that ideally how long should be a pre-mentoring engagement is required in order to find out the interested mentee?
So pre-mentoring, I definitely find a single meeting of 2 hours, generally will sort of put you on the track and say, yes, this is on or this is off. For me, at least personally, I think the first 2 hours, our initial meeting will help me decide, whether this. The second meeting is more to, tell what all I can help and what not I can't help. But the personal rapport normally is in the first meeting itself, you'll sort of know which side the wind is blowing. So I personally feel, about 2 hours personal meet, face-to-face would give you idea whether it will be on or off.
Okay. The next question is from Satish. He wants you to throw some light on negotiation skills for quality of business mentors.
Satish, I'm not able to understand your question as to what. Are you talking about negotiations between the mentor and the mentee? Is something that you need to think about. Are you talking about honing the negotiation skills of the mentee in order to make them meet the market? These are two different things. But I think you're meaning the former one, wherein you're talking about how do you do the negotiation between the mentor and the mentee, right? And say, okay, let's take on this mentoring engagement and then decide the terms, right? So sometimes the mentor will say, I want a 10% stake, and you say, oh, I can give you a 5% stake. Is that what you mean? Then that is very, very personal, because sometimes if the mentor is very, very interested in your project and he or she feels that this project will really take off, or it's some idea of their own heart, or something they like, they will be willing to negotiate it, downwards and say, okay, I don't need this, but I would like to be involved in this, or so on and so forth. So being very clear, I think every mentee should know up to what level they want to give, what they are willing to share with the mentor, and the mentor should also be very clear. And if they don't match, that's one thing. You may personally match and say both of you may like, then I'm so sure the monetary part of it would definitely work out. But if you still feel that mentally you may match and you feel you can get a lot to do and you're not able to put a value to it, then I think then the negotiations will break down, because I think each should understand the value of what each is bringing to the table.
Okay, then the next question is from Rumpma. She says that can anyone start a mentoring unit personally or an organization if needed?
Um, mentoring at currently, especially in India, is still on a very nascent stage. Of course, paid mentoring as a business is yet to start off in a big way. It is still a part of consultancy, and yes, maybe in future it would become very big, but it's not a great money spinner because it's more a little bit on the social side currently. So starting it as a standalone in today's environment may not work. I really don't know. But I think as an individual it may not work. But if you were to join and take up various mentoring assignments with bigger institutions, the chances of your growth of your company is much better. And taking it along also, separate mentees under your own company's banner, and also taking mentees from big institutions, I think that's a better way to go.
Okay, and the next question is from Arup Kumar Bakshi, Dr. Arup Kumar Bakshi. He wants to know that for a core academician, is it possible to ensure a 360-degree mentoring in business ventures?
Core academicians to get into a 360-degree mentoring, yes, it's possible if you are willing to give and devote the time for it. If you can take a 1 year leave from your organization or some things like that. But what I mean by 360-degree mentoring, I assume that you are able to give in all aspects, not possible. In fact, I would say a 360-degree mentoring is very difficult for any mentor, whether you're an academician or non-academician, right? There is only so much each person can offer, and in terms of expertise. General mentoring, specific mentoring, yes. So I think it doesn't matter if you're an academician or a non-academician, but definitely nobody can give a 360-degree mentoring. But as a pure academician, it's a little more difficult because you need to be exposed to a whole lot of practical things in order to bring in effective mentoring. So a lot of research in the actual field, a lot of exposure to what's happening in practical world, a lot of linkages to institutions which are having mentors. I think all this would definitely help you to be more effective mentor if you are a core academician. Thank you.
Thank you, Radhika. Now, Binu Agarwal wants to speak to you directly, so I will give him access so that you can speak to him. Hello?
Yes, Binu. Yes.
Hello, Bindu? Okay, I think she is not able to hear.
Okay. Hello?
Yes. Okay, the next question is from Rumpma. Is it necessary to have a special certification or competition of any special courses indeed to become a mentor?
Well, it is not mandatory, but it's definitely necessary. In order to, as I told you, going through a structured form and getting a certificate gives you a boost personally that, okay, I am qualified to do this. And also to the mentee that, okay, here's someone who's undergone a particular, some set of things in order to stand where they are and give this particular advice. So I think, yes, a farmer certification helps in a big way, but it's not mandatory. It's not required by law that if you have to be a mentor, you have to have a certificate. वो mandatory नहीं है, but if you have that certificate, it will be more effective for you as well as a confidence booster and also to show the world. Yes, next.
Yeah, the next question is from Dr. Arup Kumar. Is it mandatory for successful mentorship to build up a prior network with funding agencies angel partners, consultancies, etc. to link mentees if required?
Network, network is a must. I mean, if you're a mentor and you don't have a network, forget it. It's not effective mentoring, right? So one of the things is, yes, you have to have a network and you have to continuously build your network. There is no stopping into not building your network, you know. It's not that if I have 50, that's when I start mentoring. It's not that. It's an ongoing process, and definitely when you have an idea to be a mentor, it's always a plus point if you already have a good network built. Otherwise, it's better you start building your network in a very aggressive way before you launch yourself to be a mentor. Yes, mentoring is important, and mentoring, network is important, and more important is networking not only to, the financiers and investors, but also having a network on the technical side, having a network on other skill sets like marketing and finance and everything. All these also help a lot. So network only with investors. More often than not, always I agree with you that, mentor means they know how to link you to angels or a VC or some investor, but I think that thought should vanish, because mentoring is wholesome, not only linkages to financials. That's what is coming out very clearly. That, very clearly in the mentoring engagement nowadays, people say, okay, I want to link to this particular mentor because he's got a much more link and he's probably got finances for so and so. I agree to you, that is a big plus point if you're very well linked in the investor world. Yes, consciously you should also link. Yes.
Thank you very much, Radhika, for this interesting session. Thank you all our attendees for participating in this webinar. We are glad that the questions coming in, but due to lack of time, we were unable to answer them all. Please do send in your feedback to us. Also, if you found the session interesting, feel free to blog and post about it. The recorded version of the webinar will be available on youtube.com/users/eclubonline by Saturday. We will share the details of our next webinar very soon over a mail. Please send us the list of participants who attended the webinar along with you to us at maqsood@nenglobal.org. We will be sending the invitation for the MSFX program for this year. Thank you. Thank you once again. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.